Hey guys, this is Jochen, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to talk about a really nice feature in all X100 series cameras, including my X100V of course, the built-in ND filter, and here we go. First, as usual, don't forget to click the subscribe button down there, that would really help me a lot. And if you really like my content, consider buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com. Take a look at the description. The feature I want to talk about today is the built-in ND filter in the X100 series. Yes, all the X100 models have built in something like this here. This is an external ND filter. This system, by the way, is from Coquin or Coquin, it's French I guess, which I bought to use it with my exchangeable lenses. In general, the ND filter feature of the X100 camera's function works exactly the same for all models. The only difference is in the filter itself, but more on that later. What is an ND filter anyway? Most experienced photographers know what they can do with it, but not necessarily what the filter does exactly. So a brief explanation to refresh the knowledge. ND means neutral density in terms of photography. Neutral, as the filter is neutral gray and therefore the color rendering is not affected. There are some colored filters available for different occasions also, for example blue and orange filters that are not neutral at all. The D of the ND filter means density, because the filters allow different amounts of light to pass through depending on their specific density. And now we've come to the difference between my X100V and the older X100 camera models. The X100, the S, the T and the F all have a built-in ND filter that reduces the light by 3 full stops. You could also say that only 1/8 of the available light reaches the sensor. That is why it is called an ND8 filter. The X100V even has a built-in ND16 filter, so that only 1/16 of the light reaches the sensor. In other words, when using the ND filter you can choose 4 full stops of wider aperture or 4 full stops of slower shutter speed when using the ND filter. By the way, on my X100V, the default function button for turning on and off the function is by pulling the viewfinder switch for 2 seconds. So here we go. So now I want to demonstrate what happens by looking at this beautiful building right outside my window. So if I set my aperture to f8 and my shutter speed to auto, I get a shutter speed about 2/250th of a second, rounded to the nearest full stop of course. Now when I turn on the ND filter, my shutter speed is reduced to 1/15th of a second, so it's 4 stops slower in relation to the same aperture. Or vice versa, by changing my aperture. At f8 my shutter speed is still 2/250th of a second. If I know that and I will turn on the ND filter now and open the aperture by 4 full stops from f8 to f2, the shutter speed will remain at 2/250th of a second. Again, it's rounded to the next full stop. So with the ND filter we can either reduce the shutter speed while the aperture stays the same, or keep the shutter speed while the aperture is opened. Now that we have updated our knowledge about ND filters, we should know what to do with it. In photography you usually want to have enough light to keep the shutter speed high and the ISO low. With the ND filter, however, you are now making sure that less light hits the sensor. So either the shutter speed is changed to get the exposure correct, or you want to shoot with a larger aperture to get a shallower depth of field. The first case is mainly used to capture movement, for example light trails at night, or the famous softening water like waterfalls or ocean surf. Personally, I'm not a big fan of these soft looking water pictures, but for you I took some of them with my X100V here in the Japanese garden in Düsseldorf. The second case is interesting if you want to separate your object from the background, so you want to take photos with an aperture wide open, but the amount of light is too great. A good example for this are, of course, portraits. Here you can deal with it by turning the ND filter on and, if needed, use the internal or external flash along with your X100 camera. I've tried it myself, even if I'm not a flash expert, as I do my portraits 99% of the time with available light. However, the results were pleasing enough to take this into account. In general, I didn't realize the great benefit of having an inbuilt ND filter until I got my X100V. Because even if I own a basic set of these filters is something I almost never used before, until I bought this beautiful camera. And on my last vacation, I used it a lot. But why? Because I'm quite spontaneous in everything I do regarding photography. I don't like planning shots a lot. I don't have a target image in my head unless I have to. Even with my portraits, I never plan the shots exactly, except according to place and time. But I meet up with my models and walk around doing everything intuitively. So it is a great advantage to have useful functions such as the ND filter on board the camera and turn them on with a flick of a finger. Well, I hope this video has been helpful to you, and as always I would like to hear from you in the comments. Are you using ND filters, and especially the one in the X100 series? What occasions do you use it for? And if you have something to share or to ask on any other topic, also feel free to write me in the comments. Don't forget to give me a like, and please subscribe to my channel and switch on the notifications so that you don't miss any more videos. That's it for today. Take care of yourself. Have a good time. Ciao.